Hi everyone, and welcome to this session as part of the Better Learning Leadership Conference. My name is Jasmin Silver and I'm a Senior Language Research Manager here at Cambridge University Press. And today I'm just going to take you through very quickly the Cambridge Life Competencies Framework. So 3 things I'm going to cover. First of all, why should we teach life competencies? Secondly, what exactly should we be teaching? And thirdly, how can we teach these skills effectively? So why should we teach life competencies, and particularly life competencies in English classes? Well, I'm sure we recognise as teachers that it is not just the subject knowledge that our students need. So it's not just the knowledge of English that our students need to be able to thrive. Whether we're talking about in the classroom today or in future careers that your students might have, or indeed in their lives outside of work and study. We need a whole set of other skills to really help us thrive in these environments. And that's reflected also by governments who have made sure that life competencies such as critical thinking, creative thinking, are woven through the other subjects that are expected to be taught in schools. But if we accept that this is something that's important to teach, what exactly should we be teaching? And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you do a Google search for life competencies, 21st century skills, life skills, social emotional learning, employability skills, you get a whole host of different frameworks that are all really useful, but it can be quite overwhelming as a teacher to decide what you can take from those frameworks and how you can apply them to English language teaching. So with this in mind, we have developed the Cambridge Life Competencies Framework, which is designed for teachers of English to be able to take these life competencies and integrate them easily into the English language classroom. So we have developed this framework that includes creative thinking, critical thinking, learning to learn, communication, collaboration, and social responsibilities. Those are the 6 main key competencies in our framework. You can download the full set of booklets, which goes into detail on each of the competencies from our website, cambridge.org/CLCF, where you'll get lots more information about each one and how you can integrate it into your teaching. So when we were putting the framework together, our aims were to include a breadth of skills in one system. So all those frameworks that you saw on the slide a couple of slides ago, we wanted to put everything in one place so that it would be easy for teachers to navigate. We also wanted to develop, show development of skills across stages of learning. So we recognise that obviously that critical thinking, for example, in a 5-year-old will look very different from a 25-year-old, and we wanted to show how that progresses over the stages of learning. And we also wanted to make sure that there was a depth of detail there for teaching and assessing. In some of the frameworks that are available, there isn't that level of detail that teachers can take directly and put into their curricula. So just to give you an example of one of our competencies, we've got learning to learn here. This is what you would see in the front pages of this this booklet on learning to learn. We have split it up into 3 core areas. So you can see those in the blue here: developing skills and strategies for learning, taking control of own learning, and reflecting on and evaluating own learning. And then, as we said, we wanted to go into further depth. So we broke those down again into components. So for example, this taking control of own learning core area is made up of goal setting, planning, managing the learning environment, managing emotions. So it really gives you a sense of what is involved in that core area. And as I said, we wanted to show how this skill would develop over the learning journey. So you'll see that we have can-do statements at each of these stages. I've just picked out a few here. So for primary, you have something quite simple, identifying learning objectives. At secondary, it becomes more involved, producing a revision plan to focus on key skills in a systematic way. And at work, you'll see there's a lot more in terms of autonomy there, setting achievable goals, so setting their own goals related to specific skills, something they've identified that they want to work on, or an exam result that they are hoping to achieve. So taking the framework, how can we teach these life competencies effectively? So there are a number of options on how to use the framework. First of all, you can use it in developing a curriculum. So you can take the components and the can-do statements from the framework and produce learning objectives from those. So not just learning objectives about the language and grammar and vocabulary and so on, but also life competencies. You can also use them to develop learning materials, which is obviously what we do through our courses. So using those can-do statements, you can design tasks that will develop these skills in your students. You can also use the framework to develop assessments, using them for rubrics to describe target behaviour. And you can use them in teacher development, so giving teachers an awareness of what these life competencies are, so that they're able to understand and use them and model them to their students and integrate them into their lesson plans. So let's have a quick look at learning materials first of all. Obviously, this is something that we are very familiar with at Cambridge University Press. And you'll see once you start looking for life competencies that there are lots and lots of opportunities brought out in any English language textbook. So we just picked out some here from a few pages, and you'll see there are lots and lots of opportunities. And now you'll see more and more that it's really being explicitly brought out through whole pages in some textbooks. For example, this one on learning to learn, or highlighted sections with little tips to give students for different learning competencies, life competencies. You'll notice life competencies really being brought out in projects and problem-based activities. Really drawing on critical and creative thinking as well as collaboration. And also in the exploitation of reading texts and listening text. So here, for example, students have to build on the topic that's introduced to them through a reading text by doing a problem-solving activity where they have to come up with lots of different solutions to a problem and then evaluate which is the best one. There are also now activity cards available, which are on our website too. So these are designed to be used with any materials, and they are particularly good if you wanted to practice a life competency that wasn't being brought out in the course book in that section that you're working on at that time. So the cards look like this. They have a little activity on that can supplement and build on what you have been working on in your course books. And there's one for each component of the competencies. So hopefully that's given you a nice overview of the Cambridge Life Competencies Framework. Just some suggestions for what you can do next. First of all, choose a life competency you want to help develop more in your students. Perhaps you can then go to our website and download that booklet and think about how you could integrate that in what you're already teaching. The second idea would be to use the framework to develop your teacher's awareness of life competencies. So if you're an educational manager, for example, you can use this in professional development. And finally, try out our life competency activity cards. So they should be very easy to just pick up and go. So do have a look on our website again for those. All right, that is it from me. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.